Good morning. I am Tony Perlotti, Director of the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections, and I want to welcome and thank you for attending today's Voting Equipment and Tabulation System Security Summit. I wanted to provide a brief history of what led to today's event. The voting equipment we use to cast our ballots and tabulate the results has a useful life expectancy. This equipment typically lasts about 10 to 15 years. In Cuyahoga County, we purchased our current system in 2009, making it 12 years old. It is time to engage in the process to replace our equipment. The state legislature also believes this, and in 2018 passed Senate Bill 135, awarding over $100 million to boards of elections across the state to purchase new voting equipment. Cuyahoga County has been allocated a little over $10 million for this purchase. In anticipation of the funding and needing to replace equipment, here in Cuyahoga County, we started our review process actually back in December of 2017. We hosted a voting equipment vendor demonstration day for all the certified voting equipment vendors in the state of Ohio. Since then, we have surveyed these vendors, invited them to our office for in-depth individual vendor demonstrations, held a hands-on equipment demonstration day for voting advocacy groups that highlighted the ADA equipment available for use. We've had phone calls with these vendors' existing customers just to learn about their experiences with the equipment in those jurisdictions. We briefly paused our selection process in 2020, and that was so we could learn how to execute elections in a pandemic environment. But now we are ready to resume our process. Today's event will teach us more about these systems, focusing more on security. And with that, I would like to introduce our Deputy Director, Chantil Sater. She is going to provide you with more information on today's event.
Good morning. I'm just going to quickly explain what to expect this morning. We do have 3 vendors presenting. Each vendor will have 20 minutes to do their security presentation, and due to the limited amount of time that we have available, if you have any questions, you should be submitting those to our email address, which is electioninfo@cuyahogacounty.gov. That email address will be posted in the chat function of this. It's also on our website. And for any individuals who are not able to view the live stream of this on our YouTube channel right now or join our Zoom session, we will be posting a video recording of this session. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started so we can stay on schedule. First up this morning is Clear Ballot, and we're just going to switch over, and I believe James from their team is going to do a brief round of introductions and set them up.
Sure. Thank you, Chantil, and good morning, everybody. Good morning to everybody at the Cuyahoga Board of Elections. Clear Ballot, just briefly, is the leader in voter verifiable paper ballot voting technology. So we're working in 12 counties in Ohio right now and 13 states overall. I think a great way to introduce ourselves is that we actually got to start as a little bit different path than some of the other vendors that are out there doing post-election audits. We have some pretty flexible technology that gave us a really unique and fresh perspective in the voting system space. And we've really carried that through from some of the different things that we've learned as we've grown. On the call, we have Tab Iredale, who will be doing the majority of the security presentation. He is one of our head developers. We also have Keir Holman, who is our head of technical services and oversees customer support and success and certification, as well as our customer success manager for the state, Adam Booth. And with that, I will turn it over to Tab. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Let me just start by sharing my screen. And start my video. Yeah, my video started. Okay, yeah, I'm Tab Iredale, Director of Software Development and Chief Architect at Clear Ballot. So today I'm going to go over our high-level overview of the security of our voting systems and some of the background for our security systems. So as with all security, it wants to be approached in a layered fashion. So my presentation is sort of going to follow that. Going to start at the high level with physical aspects, then dive into some of the logical architecture of the system. Then, since our system is a client server-based system, the access on the server, the type of data encryption we use, and then dive into the voting devices themselves, what type of data protection we use there, and then down into the operating systems and what protections we use from the operating system. Before we get into that, just a little bit about how we approach security and security design. We have a team of software and development engineers who are constantly monitoring how our development process is, reviewing our designs, monitoring all security threats that are out there. We have a group that works with various outside organizations such as Department of Homeland Security to make sure that we are on top of all the latest things that want to be protected against, constantly monitoring for threats and figuring out what updates need to be done, submitting de minimis changes for certification to get any of those security patches that need to be done through certification so we can get them installed on customer sites. Voting systems are not like a lot of other computer systems. They're not online, so a lot of the protocols that are used for updating for security reasons, online systems are not available and don't want to be used in voting systems. We want to ensure that any patches that get put in are safe and are not impacting the voting systems. And so that's part of the reason for going through a certification process before applying the patches. So that's just sort of a little background on how we approach security design. So as we go into our current system, the physical architecture, what we have is two main systems on the back end, and they're physically separated. One we call Clear Design, and that is used to lay out ballots, import election definitions, lay out the ballots, proofread all the ballot definitions, all the physical ballots to make sure they are laid out properly, all the languages are on there correctly, etc. The Clear Design system works as a server, which stores all that data and then is accessed by the clients or the Clear Design workstations, which are laptop computers running a Chrome browser, and no extra data is stored on those machines. They're just dumb terminals that access the election data that's stored on the server. The tabulation side is, as I mentioned, physically separated system. We call it ClearCount. It again is a server, physically secured, and we again access it through browsers from workstations, and the central scanning devices are connected directly to that server on a local area network that is completely isolated from any other network. The actual voting devices, we have two of them. The Clear Access, which is our accessible voting device, and our ClearCast, which is the paper ballot scanner. And the way the system works is we create USB sticks from Clear Design, and we physically transport those over to the Clear Access machines and plug them in and install the data in there. It's a physical separation. The Clear Access machines are never connected to the internet. They're never connected to a network at all. They have no network abilities. Same with the ClearCast machines. Again, they're not connected to networks. Data is put onto those from USB sticks. And as you can see in this diagram, we actually have two forms of those USB sticks. One called the ADF, and that is the accessible definition file. That contains all the ballot definition along with all of the audio, and the various languages that are needed to display ballots and all the data to print the ballots out. And so the printed ballots that come out of the Clear Access machine are physically carried over and inserted into a ClearCast machine, which tabulates those ballots. The data is transferred to the ClearCast machine from ClearDesign using what we call the BDF file or the BDFX, which is the encrypted form. And it stores all the data for the actual ballot for tabulation purposes. That same BDF file is also loaded onto ClearCount for tabulation. And so all the data from the ClearCast machines is again put on USB sticks and transmit and carried physically up and plugged into one of the workstations and uploaded to the server to accumulate the results. So that's the physical architecture of the system. Logically, as I've mentioned, we have the server, the two servers, the ClearDesign server and the ClearCount server. They're both running Ubuntu 18, the latest version of Ubuntu. We stay on the long-term support versions so that we're getting the patches and the updates that are necessary to keep the system secure. We also run a variety of other checks on the systems to make sure we're following good security protocols. We put all the appropriate auditing rules in place, network rules in place, login rules that are required in place. And we use what's called the SCAP checklist. And the SCAP is a security content automation protocol. And it's one that's been developed by NIST. And it's used, there's protocols and checklists for all the different operating systems out there and all sorts of different applications. And it's just going through and saying, here are the best settings, here are the best security rules to be using on your system. And so we run those checklists to make sure that we are compliant with as many of them as are reasonable for our application. The SCAP checklist is a broad-based, doesn't really determine what environment you're running in. So some of the things are appropriate for some environments and not for other ones. The other thing to be aware of is that none of our servers actually have user logins except for the maintenance root login, or not, it's not the root login, the maintenance login, which is used to install the software, and that's about it. All other accessing to the systems for election purposes is done from the client through secure network connections. That means that our servers we recommend that our servers are physically secured in a secure room away from where everybody is working. And that is just another layer of good security to be putting in there. The clients, as I mentioned, are their workstations. We're running Windows. We use Chrome as the browser on those, again, making sure that we're patching them as is appropriate. Again, we run the SCAP hardening checklist on those to make sure that all of the reasonable rules are being followed, the reasonable settings, network protocols, et cetera, are being used, as well as there's no election data being stored on the client. All of the data is just stored on the servers. The communication between the servers and the clients is done via networking. All network traffic is encrypted by using the HTTPS protocols. That even though these are local area networks, it's just that much more security. Again, the security in depth to make sure that things cannot be intercepted. Again, our network switches, we recommend that they get hardened to only allow authorized devices to be connected. So if somebody managed to bring in an unauthorized laptop and tried to connect it to the network, it would not connect. So again, just security in depth is what we're trying to do here. The logical architecture for it. Again, I touched on this on the introduction page there. We're transferring data using the USB sticks. The data that is on those USB sticks is all encrypted. We use the AES CBC encryption protocol, as well as all data is separately validated. And they're very different things. Encryption is done to hide data to make sure that unauthorized people can't read it. Data validation is to make sure that the data has not been tampered with. And so we use both an encryption and a validation in all of the data that we transmit between all devices. The voting devices, they are physically separated from the server, as I mentioned. They're physically separated from any network. They have no networking capabilities at all. The ClearCast system is running Ubuntu, again, long-term service version of Ubuntu. Again, we run the SCAP hardening to make sure it is appropriately hardened. And the only program that's running on it, it's really an appliance. So the only program that's running on there is the ClearCast program. It's a dedicated application. When you start it up, it just starts up ClearCast. Clear Access, it's running Windows, and that was chosen because of some of the things for accessibility reasons, et cetera. It was better to be working under a Windows environment currently to do those. Again, it's SCAP hardened, and again, it's only running the Clear Access program. So again, when you start it up and you log in and you're at the Clear Access program. On the Clear Access, since it is really just used for an accessible voter to go vote a ballot, and its output is a printed ballot, there's no election results stored on the Clear Access machine at all. It is just a transient data that's stored there. The election definitions are stored there, but no results are stored there. In terms of data encryption, as I've mentioned, all the data we use is encrypted using CBC. That includes the BDFX, which is the ballot definition format that I mentioned, the ADFX that I mentioned previously, the results coming out of ClearCast, and all the ballot images. So everything that is stored on USB sticks and or transported from place to place is all encrypted, so that it cannot be both tampered with it, but more critically, nobody has access to it. Nobody has unauthorized access to it. As I mentioned before, it's all hashed and validated using a SHA-256. That should be 256, not 246, I see there. As an HMAC, which is a hash method authentication code. So each file within the BDFX and each file within the ADFX. So it's not just one thing that's hashed. There's a whole bunch of hashes in there that are cross-checked to allow for redundancy and, again, the defense in depth. Each result record, so every record on ClearCast, when we cast a ballot and the record is created, which is a CVR, the cast vote record, it is again hashed when it's stored. Along with the ballot image, it is hashed, and the hash of the ballot image that matches the CVR is included with the CVR. So again, if there was any tampering with it, it would be detected. All the log records are also hashed to make sure that they're not tampered with. And all of these records are linked by the hash of the previous record is included in the next record. So there is no way that somebody could go in and delete a record or modify it without breaking that link of hashes. So it's again a way of defense in depth, trying to make sure that the system is very robust. Server access. As I've mentioned, there's no login to the server. Everything is done by a browser using HTTPS, giving us a robust protocol there. The clients that when you log into there, they are authenticated by a username and a password. Each user on the system has their own username and their own password. They're not shared by users. All the clients have an inactivity timeout. So if somebody walks away from the station or aren't doing anything, that time the workstation will time out. The timeout can be set by the county. So it's tuned to, and it can be set by the role for the user. So different roles can have different timeouts. So again, just trying to make it as flexible, but as secure as possible. All the client access is role-based permissions. So different users have access to different parts of the systems. So your scanning clerk has no ability to go in and adjudicate ballots manually. Your manual adjudication people don't have any rights to go print reports. Various segregations of duties are done in there. And all the databases are stored in the MySQL database, protected, and it's the actual passwords are not stored. It's a hash of the passwords that are stored. So even if somebody got the database, they would not actually be able to get the passwords from the database. The ClearCast, again, just no logins, which I mentioned before. Internal data is stored in, again, the MySQL database. Again, it's a hash of the passwords. It's not the actual passwords. External data is all encrypted. And to obviously decrypt that, it is a user entered code that is used to decrypt that data. Clear access, again, there's no results stored on the device. The internal definition that we store on the device is stored in encrypted form. Again, it takes, when the poll worker logs in with their password, it is that password is then used to decrypt a key that's used to decrypt the election code or the election data. And finally, just repeating that there's no election external data is used, election media is used during the operation. All the data is just internal. There's no external USB that's being used on the Clear Access device while voting.
Talbot, you have 3 minutes.
Yep, that's great. I'm on my last slide. The operating system protections, as I've mentioned earlier, Clear Design, ClearCast, and Clear Access system are all SCAP hardened. And those checklists get updated every so often. We're going through a certification now where the SCAP checklists were just updated to a version 2. So we again went through and reviewed all of the requirements in there. There was a few things that were added due to new security concerns. So we updated those. So again, we are just constantly monitoring for security threats, making sure we're updating to use the latest versions of things to address any found security issues. And that's fundamentally one of the things with security. It's not a static thing. It is something that we are constantly monitoring as new threats are discovered. Things that were considered secure 2 years ago are probably may not be considered secure now. So we are constantly reviewing our designs, reviewing protocols, reviewing procedures to make sure that we are updating those. The Windows-based devices we use group policies to only allow authorized programs to run on the Unix devices. We also use the Unix-based programs that are used to limit access of programs, and only programs that are authorized are allowed to be run. None of the systems are connected to the internet, fundamental, and that's a pro and a con. It means that we are not subject to certain threats, but it also means that we can't get the latest updates just automatically deployed, which is also, there's a pro and a con there. And that is why we just disable automatic updates. They just don't work because you're not connected to an internet. And all systems have any Wi-Fi or Bluetooth disabled. If the device happened to have that, which most of them don't, they are actually disabled when we go and harden their systems. And any other threats that we detect, applications that are considered or parts of the operating system that are considered not necessary and potentially vulnerable, we disable those. So that's it for the presentation. I know it's been very brief. Hopefully I've given enough understanding as to what the architecture of the system is and our approach to security. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tab and Clear Ballot team. And as I mentioned before, if any of you have any questions based on this presentation, you can submit those via email to our general BOE account, which is posted in the chat of the session. We're going to move along to the next vendor, which is HART, based out of Texas. So I believe Karen is joining us, and she's going to start the introduction for her team and pass along to do their security presentation.
Great. Thank you, Chantil. And good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Clakeley, and I'm the Director of Strategic Accounts for HART InterCivic, leading our engagement with Cuyahoga County. On behalf of the HART InterCivic team, I'd really like to thank the Board of Elections for inviting us here today and to share a little bit more about the technology and employed at Hart InterCivic, but more importantly, the security behind the Verity voting system. Hart is the leader in secure and transparent elections and does business in 19 states today, including the state of Ohio. I'm very pleased to introduce our presenter for today, Hart's Chief Technology and Security Officer, Mr. Jim Cantor. And now I welcome you to Hart InterCivic's presentation on election security in the Verity voting system. Jim, take it away.
Thank you, Karen. Good morning, everybody. I am Jim Cantor. I'm Hart's Chief Technology Officer, and I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to introduce to you Verity Security this morning. Tony, you want to go ahead and open your presentation? We'll let that come up. Okay, great. Let's get situated here. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. You can go ahead on to the next slide, Tony. So we're going to talk about Verity's product security today. That is really the focus of today's conversation. But frankly, security is more than just a feature set. It's more than just the product. It is about corporate security. And with that, I want to talk a little bit about corporate security. And naturally, corporate security starts with our people. Next slide. So all employees at Hart undergo comprehensive background checks. They are performed when a new employee joins the company and periodically thereafter. So we ensure that the background checks are kept active. Furthermore, all employees go through periodic cybersecurity training. It's important that everybody stays up to date on what not to do and what to do. You know, what links not to click on and how often to change your password. So cybersecurity training is important, and that's from the CEO on down through the entire company that goes through this periodic training. Hart's also very active in the election security community, and we participate with the Department of Homeland Security in roundtables. We share information along with our colleagues on this call, and that is we learn from each other, we look at the threat environments, and we ensure that the business is aware of the current threat environment, and we ensure that our customers are aware of the threat environment. It doesn't just start with our people, it's the jurisdictions and it's our customers' people as well that plays a role in this. And lastly, we do have comprehensive crisis response planning. If something happens, we are prepared for it to happen. We have a process in place. We know how to deal with it. We don't have to sit down and try to figure out what needs to be done. We are prepared to act and act fast should that time ever arise. So as this slide shows, we collaborate with a large security-focused community. It's not just about Hart. It is about the wider community because, again, we learn from each other. We've taken a leadership role in the support of our customers and the industry we all collectively serve. We find that our involvement is so important in the security arena that we've actually stepped up and we've taken a leadership position. In fact, we're a founding member of the Department of Homeland Security's Sector Coordinating Council and have a leadership position on that council. Verity is an American product. Hart is headquartered in Austin, Texas. This is where our headquarters are and our engineering facilities and our manufacturing facilities about 2 miles down the road from where I'm located today. That's important. It gives us direct governance over our manufacturing facility. We have direct line of sight to product manufacturing, to firmware loads, to how those products are built. It's just 2 miles down Highway 35. And that gives us an important lock into maintaining good governance over how our products are built and ultimately distributed to our customers. So let's talk about testing and certification. Since first certified in 2015, Verity is a relatively new product, which is from a security perspective, has wide benefits. We've undergone dozens of federal and state certifications. The certifications have resulted in multiple security and penetration testing events by independent organizations. Let me give you a feel for what has been said about Hart security. Okay, this is from an independent organization, SLI Compliance, who's one of the 2 authorized accredited laboratories by the Election Assistance Commission. And they understand that the HART voting system is designed utilizing best practices commonly found in software security engineering practices. They see, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in coming slides, about our defense in depth architecture, our multi-layered approach with intentional redundancies, increases security of the system as a whole, and addresses many different attack vectors. Okay, this is about, there are always multiple attack vectors, and you need a series of gates to protect. If one gate is open, another gate exists. And what I hope you will learn from the remainder of this presentation is you will see the strength of those gates, the strength of our security. As SLI has said, and as the independent certification laboratories can attest to, Verity Security is unlike others in this industry. Verity is more, obviously, than just about casting a vote. It's more than about the security that we're going to talk about. It is about ensuring that we provide a secure voting system for all of our customers, including the accessibility community. And HART works very closely with the accessibility community, from the National Federation of the Blind to ADAPT Texas, to ensure that its products meet their needs, not our needs, but their needs. I think what's important, what's important is we don't just look for them to examine our products after we're done building it. They are involved in building it from the get-go. The accessibility community is involved in requirements. They are involved in the design, so they can give us that continuous feedback. And so they are part of the process, not involved after the process is complete. By then it's too late. And this slide, and as spoken by William Greer, should give you that confidence that we fully support the accessibility community in our products. So much so that we heard them, and we listened to them, and developed Verity Duo Go, which is a very innovative and unique method of accessible voting in the polling place or at the curbside if they can't get out of their car. And I'll talk more about this in a coming slide. Now let's get into actual product security, which y'all wanted to listen to today. So let me start. To understand product security, you do have to have an understanding of what we're ultimately proposing to Cuyahoga County for the solution. It is a paper-based solution. It's a paper-based solution for the accessibility community, paper-based solution for hand-marked paper ballots. In the leftmost device you ultimately see is our Verity Print with Auto Ballot. That's actually used by the poll workers to present a ballot to the voter. It's a ballot on demand solution. So ultimately, once the voter enters the polling place, they are given the ballot they desire. It eliminates the waste and uncertainty associated with having to pre-print ballots. So that's Verity Print Auto Ballot. The target audience there is the poll worker. On the rightmost side is Verity Scan. That's the vote capture device. For a hand-marked paper ballot that they get from Verity Print, a voter will hand-mark their ballot and ultimately scan it into Verity Scan. Verity Duo, the center left device, is ultimately the device we recommended for accessible ballot marking. And it is unique in which it is a ballot marking device used by the accessible community, but it is the only true voter verifiable ballot marking device on the market. Others can claim it's voter verifiable, but it's really not. And we're going to talk more about why Verity Duo is unique. And lastly, as I introduced to you, there is Verity Duo Go, which is used with Verity Duo, but it allows the device to be taken to the voter, as opposed to the voter being forced to come to the device. For example, curbside voting. Essential theme that you should take away from this slide is Verity Print, Verity Duo, Verity Scan, as well as other HART voting devices share a common platform, a common look and feel. Doesn't matter if you're scanning a ballot, using a ballot marking device, or using Verity Print, the look and feel is the same. The user interface is the same. That benefits warehouse workers, poll workers, even voters. It's a shared platform. But that shared platform is also shared in security. The security we develop for one device is the security platform we offer for all devices. That is the shared DNA across our system. So what you will be learning in the next slides is what we do for one device and one system impacts them all. Verity was first certified in 2015. I'd mentioned that earlier. And we ultimately took a holistic approach to security. In Verity, security is not a feature. It's a platform on which the features lie. We didn't do a security retrofit. We didn't take an old product and try to snap security on. Rather, security was a core tenet of the process and the platform from its first day that we built it. Verity follows the defense in depth architecture. Okay, this approach in security protects the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the system by implementing multiple layers of security controls, different types to maximize defenses and eliminate gaps. Again, it is about gates. And I'm going to talk about some of these. It's about the secure development process, operational security, secure configurations, physical security, and ultimately software security. Okay. Secure development process. Okay. Security doesn't start with a feature or a specific need. It starts with a risk and threat assessment. We have to assess the risk based on what we want to build in the system and of the current threat environment. And the threat environment does change. So that is the start of our process. Moving into design based on very formal requirements, ultimately implementation of those formal requirements. And lastly, validation. Very classic plan, do, check cycle that gets implemented using best practices across industries. Those noted at Microsoft, NIST, OWASP, learning from others to ensure that best practices in security, design, implementation, and validation are all followed. Talk a little bit about our secure hardware. On the devices, in fact, the devices you see behind me. Naturally, we have keyed locks. We have tamper evidence seals. Those are very common across the voting systems. But there are some areas that we are not common. For example, if there are external ports, they're non-standard ports. I apologize, but you cannot charge your iPhone in a Verity device. It is not possible. We use two-factor authentication as needed. Okay. Voters do not insert external cards. There's no physical involvement with the voter. They don't use cards, devices, any other insertion into our products. Okay. Data is redundantly stored. There are multiple separate locations, separate data buses that the data is ultimately stored on. And that's an important part because you don't want to lose the data. You don't want to lead to denial of service. Okay. We train in the hardware on how to practice strong chain of custody. It's very important. Again, it does go back to people. Okay. Cast vote records are ultimately digitally signed and protected and through non-repudiation and tamper evidence through NIST compliant FIPS 140-2 cryptography. Really a SHA-256 hash that was mentioned earlier. And lastly, and I've got to really say this in bold, we are not connected to the internet. There's no, with our election systems, the EMS, there is no connection on the internal office networks. These are isolated systems, air gap systems. No connection to the internet, period. Voting devices or the EMS. The software, okay? Again, we continue to stress it. There isn't even internet software capabilities in our systems. Also, there is no remote access. We can't dial into these systems, devices, or the EMS. The capability does not exist, period. Our systems operate in kiosk mode. On devices, there is no concept of a desktop. You cannot escape to desktop. It operates as a voting device, period. Okay. Within the EMS, only authorized users can get to the desktop. Okay, so kiosk mode means it serves as the voting system. That's what it does. Okay. Two-factor authorization. is used. I talked earlier about that we use the hashing mechanism, SHA-256, for digital signatures. Okay, these are NIST compliant methods, FIPS 140-2. Okay, all data, the cast vote records are signed using those methods. Audit logs are signed using those methods. And of course, we support rigorous and sophisticated post-election audits. These are the two ballots through our system that will be delivered. Obviously, one is a hand marked ballot and the other is the Verity Duo ballot, which is used by the ballot marking device. Hand marked ballot and the Verity Duo ballot both provide the same level of voter verifiability. Okay. Competitive systems can't make that claim. Yes, a hand marked ballot is fully verifiable, but is a ballot marking device ballot, a printed vote record, fully verifiable? In our system, it is. Let me explain why. Okay. The Verity Duo is a full-size ballot, which ultimately voters are used to, 8.5 by 11 sheet or 8.5 by 14 sheet of paper, for example, on the left. Okay. The voter selections in a Verity Duo printed vote record are not stored in the barcode, period. Yes, we have a QR code, but that's ultimately a security seal. It provides the tamper evidence and non-repudiation of that sheet. But we process voter selections by what the voter sees on the ballot. The vote record on the right, it's all encoded in the barcode. What the voter sees isn't what is encoded.
Jim, you
that,
have 3 minutes.
Thank you. And that does make a difference. This isn't hyperbole. The voter needs to ultimately verify their data, just as the voting system, the scanner, processes that data. Okay. And mistakes do happen. Barcodes have gone wrong. Okay. Look to Northampton County, in which the barcode was misinterpreted, and there were errors in the vote tabulation. So we can talk about, do barcodes matter, yes or no, and Hart does do it differently. But the proof is in the pudding when it has happened in the past. And that's why we believe that the voting system, Tony, next slide, that the voting system is, that the Hart voting system is the only truly voter verifiable printed vote record, because it prevents these mistakes from happening. So we do believe that Hart has consistently demonstrated through third-party validations that it can provide the most secure voting system on the market today. Okay. We have secure people and processes. I've introduced you to that. We are built here in the United States, right down the road. I've talked about our secure hardware and software and some of the security controls that are in place. And lastly, how our hand-marked paper record and our printed vote record are both voter verifiable and the only truly voter verifiable record available. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the county. I want to thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Jim and Karen and the rest of the Hart team. Finally, for this morning's presentations, we have ES&S. ES&S is our current tabulation equipment vendor, and I believe Craig is going to do the introductions, or maybe Heather. I see Heather.
There I am.
Oh, there you are. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Chantil. So yeah, my name's Craig Seibert, and I'm the Ohio sales manager for ES&S. Obviously, I want to start by thanking Tony and Chantil and the entire Cuyahoga Board of Elections staff for getting this call set up today. We know a lot of time and effort was put through to get us to all be on the call this morning. A little background on ES&S. We are the largest election tabulation vendor in the country with over 450 employees working in 44 states. In Ohio specifically, we have 46 counties on our equipment, including Cuyahoga, Chantil just mentioned. Many of those we've been in the state for over 30 years. So we have a rich tradition of working in Ohio. On the call today with us, We have Chris Woloshyn, who's going to be our main presenter, and he is our Chief Information Security Officer for ES&S. We have Heather Scott, who is our Ohio Account Manager, Toby Dingbaum, who is our Product Engineer, and I believe Patrice Webb might be on audio only, but she is our Director of Government and Public Affairs. So with that brief intro, I will turn it over to Chris and we'll get started.
Thank you, Craig. Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here talking to you today about election technology and security. I want to start off by showing a short video that talks about product security, and then I'll go into my presentation. I'm going to share the screen here and start the video.
Today, there's no bigger area of focus and no bigger concern about elections than the security of each and every vote. Over the next few minutes, you'll learn about layers of security that protect elections and the extreme measures that exist to ensure your vote is counted the way you intended it to count. All on election systems and software voting devices. 6 layers of security exist within ES&S modern voting devices, and all of them are active in every step of the voting process. It starts with physical controls, including the storage and care of units prior to Election Day. Every election office that uses this equipment is encouraged to lock it down extensively using cameras and controlled access.
ES&S ensures that every machine is its own lockdown fortress. For example, this unit can have up to 10 locks that restrict access to every part of the machine. On top of that, seals, each with their own unique serial number, also ensure security. If a seal is broken, it can't be replaced without detection.
And that's just physical access. Internally, these machines are programmed to do one and only one thing: elections. Only federally approved and independently tested software is installed, and it's the only thing that exists on these machines. Tucker, what are you doing in here?
Sorry to interrupt again, but these machines are never, ever connected to the internet.
Excuse me? In addition, all of the USB flash drives that are used to load elections onto the voting systems are uniquely created, and they're the only USB devices that can be recognized by these machines. Any other external device plugged into a port on one of these voting systems will not be recognized.
Which is the perfect time to talk about encryption, or how we scramble the data. Each of these modern voting devices uses data that is protected by 256-bit encryption. So how hard is it to crack 256-bit encryption? Well, if everyone on the planet, and that's approximately 7 billion people, if they all unleashed a brute force attack using today's computer technology, it would take them close to 77 septillion years. It's like 77 million times a trillion times a trillion. Let's just say it's a really long time.
Tucker, we need to move this along.
I get it. Keep going.
Even beyond the encryption is the integrity of the data validated alongside it. The machine compares the digital signature with the encrypted election data to confirm it's trustworthy. If even 1 byte of data is changed, the machine cannot be used for voting and shuts down automatically.
So this is the equivalent of changing just a single letter in this dictionary. The machine recognizes that tiny change and said, "This ain't happening." I interrupted again. Please go on.
Audit logs and paper trails are another layer of security in the voting process. Every administrative action that takes place on the machines is documented, digitally signed, and cannot be altered. Later, this is combined in a database from all machines used in the election. So it's possible to see exactly what happened at an exact time at a precise location on a specific machine. This does not include information about the specific voter or their selections. With the advancements in election technology, there's even more security for election results. Each polling location produces not just 1, but 4 backups of the results. First is an encrypted USB flash drive that contains all of the information and results from the election. Second is a backup USB stick that's an exact duplicate of the first one. It remains in the machine under its own lock and key. Third is the printed results report that summarizes the results from the machine that counts and records the votes at that location. And fourth are the paper ballots themselves. The best part? After an election, all of these can be compared against one another to verify the integrity of the election. It's auditable. All of this means elections with modern solutions like these are more secure than ever before.
But we haven't even told them yet about ballot security, where every ballot is tracked throughout the day by trained poll workers who make sure that the number of votes cast matches with the number of voters.
Tucker.
Or about the ability to do risk-limiting audits by pulling a sample of ballots and inspecting them for accuracy against the cast vote record.
Tucker.
Or that the scanning technology precisely locates and evaluates each mark to ensure accurate tabulation. Or that election systems are run on a hardened environment.
Tucker, we said a few minutes.
Okay, I get it. But if you want to know more about these topics, check out... Nope, you know what? You tell them.
Oh, thank you. To learn more about these topics, contact your local election authority.
Thank you for your attention on that video, folks. My name is Chris Woloshyn. I am the Chief Information Security Officer for Election Systems and Software. Prior to joining ES&S, I was the Chief Security Officer at the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C., the Deputy Security Officer at the Department of Veterans Affairs in Washington, D.C., a couple other government and private sector jobs, and then 20 plus years in the Navy, all dedicated towards information security, network security, product security. And that's my job at ES&S. I am the only dedicated CISO, or Chief Information Security Officer, at the executive level of any tabulation company that does business in the US. My day-to-day job is to drive security across the company, whether it's products, personnel, policies, or physical security. I'm going to share a couple of slides with you that I think are important to demonstrate just how well ES&S does when it comes to security. Sharing the screen again. Let me get to the viewer presentation mode. Full-time CISO. I spend every hour of every day driving security across our product line. I'm happy to report that the improvements that ES&S has made in the last several years have placed us at the forefront. We believe we are the leader in this industry when it comes to product security. As you note from the other presenters, product security, cybersecurity has become the hot button issue for elections. Didn't always used to be that way, but since it has in the fall of 2016 and beyond, ES&S has made a serious commitment to security, making sure that everything we do, our products, our services, our on-the-ground support to you in Cuyahoga County is absolutely security-minded and upfront. We have an enhanced physical and employee security program. We conduct security training for all employees when they're hired, and then annually thereafter. There are special security training sessions for folks who have elevated privileges, like developers or system administrators. We have dozens of phishing campaigns that have occurred over the last several years to make sure that security awareness is at the forefront of our employees and our customers' minds. We take great strides to improve the physical security of our facilities. There are security cameras in all the sensitive areas. We use badge readers to control access to make sure that people moving around our facilities have a reason to be there and can only access the places that they need to do their job. We have enjoyed some security leadership positions in the Industry Sector Coordinating Council. Kathy Rogers is the past vice chair. I led the Sector Coordinating Council last year and remain on its executive committee. And that has been a very productive relationship between the Homeland Security Sector Coordinating Council and the Government Coordinating Council, where secretaries of state and state election directors work directly with industry on initiatives that are important to elections. ES&S takes part in many of the Homeland Security election security initiatives. We have weekly scans done by Homeland Security on all our internet-facing internet presence, like our corporate network, our websites, our customer portal. Anything that ES&S corporate network does that touches the public-facing internet is scanned by Homeland Security weekly, looking for vulnerabilities. When the EI-ISAC, the Elections Infrastructure ISAC, began offering Albert monitors to state and local election jurisdictions, ES&S was the first vendor to sign up for Albert monitors, and we have 5 of them, 5 Albert monitors located in our voter registration environments that we host for states where we support voter registration. We have incident response plans that have been vetted by the Homeland Security physical and cybersecurity regional personnel. We've had DHS come on site and do 2 weeks of intense risk assessment and vulnerability assessments. They've reviewed our incident response plans and found them to be the best in the industry. Our memberships in the EI-ISAC and the IT-ISAC Elections Industry Special Interest Group help us work with other vendors to make sure that all the security of the elections industry is being raised. And these relationships have been very productive for us. Regarding supply chains, we believe we are the leader in supply chain security. I have personally conducted visits to all of our frontline supply chain parts suppliers and manufacturing partners. I've conducted internal audits using the National Institutes of Standards and Technology to make sure that they are following safe and secure supply chain best practices. NIST and Homeland Security are also working collaboratively with the election industry and specifically with ES&S on how to better secure technology supply chains as they relate to elections infrastructure. ES&S is a leader in independent penetration testing. We partnered with the Idaho National Labs, which is one of the preeminent government test labs, to conduct critical product evaluation of our ballot marking device, our precinct level scanner, and our election management systems. We've had the cybersecurity hacking company Synack test our electronic poll book. We've had multiple states, including Rhode Island and Delaware, involve their National Guard to test our systems, all with very satisfactory results. And I'm proud to say our partnership with the state of Ohio and the testing and the follow-up that we do with various entities within the state of Ohio has been very, very positive. Our engagement with the Idaho National Test Lab was one of the first for any in the industry. We're the only election technology provider to give our end-to-end voting system to INL to test. That was back in 2019. And any findings that that testing produced have been rolled into the versions of the software and hardware that Cuyahoga County is considering. Last but not least, I just want to talk to you one-to-one about our security philosophy. ES&S has been around for 40 years. We've had the same principal owner for 30 years, which speaks to the stability and the growth of our company. As Craig mentioned, yes, we're in over 40 states and more than 40 counties in Ohio. But this extensive group of customers that we have across the country help us improve our products, improve our security. When there's an issue in the field, our people, our ES&S employees and contractors are with you every step of the way in the setup of the equipment and resolving any issue that might occur. Not a third party, not somebody else that a company hires. It's our people. That partnership between ES&S, the state of Ohio, and Cuyahoga County has been very beneficial for many years, and we hope to continue that. I look forward to any questions that you might have. And I will stop there to see if there's anything else.
Thank you, Chris, and the rest of the ES&S crew and all of the vendors for participating with us today. And again, we want to thank you from the public and local community organizations and advocacy groups and voters out there who are watching this presentation. Again, if you have any questions for any of the 3 vendors who presented today, you can submit those questions to our email address. And also just want to give one last thank you, special thanks to 2 of our staff here, Elena and Victoria, who have worked very hard over the last few days to ensure that this Zoom presentation with 3 different vendors and lots of members of the public and streaming on our YouTube channel, like all came together seamlessly, and they did a great job. So thank you, ladies. And that's it. So thanks, guys.